Okay, let's talk about interstitial cystitis, or IC. For so many people, it's just this incredibly frustrating condition. You've got these severe bladder symptoms, but there are no clear answers. So today, we're going to dive into a completely new way of looking at IC. We're going to move beyond just the bladder to see the entire picture. Does this sound familiar to you? You are dealing with intense, very real symptoms. We're talking pain, constant urgency, that feeling of pressure, but you go to the doctor, you run all the tests, and you keep hearing those same words. Everything looks normal. It's this maddening situation that can make you feel like you're going crazy, and it leaves you without a clear path forward. And this right here really shows that massive disconnect. On the left, you've got your actual reality, intense pain, symptoms that change day to day. But on the right, you see what the tests are showing. Zilch. No infection, no damage. Now, the crucial point isn't that your symptoms aren't real. It's that our standard tests, well, they're looking for the wrong kind of problem. Okay, so let's start to reframe this whole thing. We're not going to treat it as some medical dead end. Instead, let's look at it like a puzzle that we finally have all the pieces to solve. This is a huge shift in thinking, right? The problem with IC so often isn't a physically broken or damaged bladder. It's really an issue with how signals are being processed. Think of it like this. The hardware of the bladder is fine, but the wiring, the nervous system, has become way too sensitive. And that brings us to something I call the volume knob theory. It's a really simple but honestly powerful way to understand what's actually happening with that wiring. So the official scientific term for this is visceral hypersensitivity. But what does that actually mean? Well, it means that your internal organs, in this case your bladder, are reacting with a huge sense of pain or urgency to totally normal things, like the bladder just filling with urine. Normal signals are being treated like a major threat. So let's go back to that volume knob idea. For most people, the nervous system keeps the bladder's volume set to a pretty comfortable 2 or 3. But with IC, it's like that same knob has been cranked all the way up to 10. The exact same signal, the bladder gently stretching, is now being felt as deafeningly, painfully loud. But why is the volume turned up so high? Well, here's the fascinating part. The answer often isn't even in the bladder itself. And this brings us to this incredible connection between our gut and our bladder. You see, the bladder isn't this lonely little organ doing its own thing. It's actually neighbors with the gut, and they share a lot of the same infrastructure. They use the same nerve pathways to send messages, they report back to the same hub in the spinal cord, and they even use similar immune signals to chat. This whole interconnected system, it's called the gut-bladder axis. Now, because they share all this wiring, you get something called crosstalk. It's kind of like having 2 phones on the same old-school party line. If there's a bunch of static or irritation on one end, let's say from an imbalance in your gut, the shared nerves get all fired up and sensitized. And because the bladder is on that exact same line, it becomes sensitive just by association, even if there's nothing directly wrong with it. And this explains so much. It's why a huge percentage of people with IC also have IBS. It is not a coincidence at all. A lot of the time, both conditions are being driven by the exact same root problem, that visceral hypersensitivity coming from the gut-bladder connection. Okay, so we've got a sensitized nervous system, and we've got this gut-bladder connection. But there are a couple more key players that really turn this sensitivity into a chronic, system-wide state of high alert. First up, stress. Biologically, when we're stressed, our fight or flight response kicks in, and that literally primes our nerves to be more reactive and lowers our pain threshold. Then you've got mast cells. These are immune cells that act like little first responders, and they release chemicals like histamine. And histamine is a huge player here, directly causing that familiar burning and urgency by poking those already sensitive nerves. And here is how it all locks together into this vicious cycle. It starts with a trigger. Could be a gut issue, could be a stressful week. That causes the mast cells to activate and release histamine. This makes the nerves even more sensitive, which then causes the bladder symptoms, right? The pain, the urgency. But of course, those symptoms cause more stress. And boom, the loop starts all over again. It's this self-perpetuating cycle that keeps the whole system stuck on high alert. But here's the great news. Understanding that feedback loop is everything, because it shows us the way out. The solution isn't about attacking the bladder. It's about gently calming the entire system down. This is a total paradigm shift. The old way of thinking was obsessed with finding and fixing a broken part, the bladder. The new model understands this is a system-wide issue, so the goal isn't to hunt for damage anymore, it's to reduce sensitivity. The target isn't just the bladder, it's the whole network, the nerves, the gut, and the immune response. So this new model gives us a clear, multi-layered game plan. Instead of searching for one magic bullet, we can tackle each piece of that feedback loop. We can work on calming the nervous system, supporting gut health to quiet that initial irritation, stabilizing the immune response, and of course, identifying our personal triggers to stop feeding the cycle. And this leads to such a profound and honestly empowering shift in your mindset. Your body isn't broken, it's actually being overprotective. Your nervous system has learned this pattern of sensitivity. And the best part is that anything that has been learned can also be unlearned, gently and gradually over time. So if you take away just one thing today, let it be this. The goal is no longer about trying to fix a broken bladder. The real goal is to calm the entire system, quiet down all that crosstalk, and simply turn the volume down